Hi, I'm Nicole. Welcome to my nutrition kitchen. I've got my coffee and I'm ready to chat with you today about malnutrition. It's the end of Malnutrition Awareness Week, so I thought this was a good topic to cover for this chat. This is actually quite a big topic and it can affect people all across all age groups. It's not discriminant about who can be affected. So I'm just going to talk about one group. I'm not going to try and cover everything today. So I'm going to focus on our older population. Here in New Zealand, we have an ageing population and most want to stay living in their own homes as long as they can, keep their independence. Research from Massey University shows that more than a third of older people living in the community are at risk of malnutrition. And there are a few reasons why this can end up happening. Firstly, they eat less. Older people often tend to eat less because, they think it's a logical thing to do as their physical activity reduces. Another thing is that eating can become a chore, especially for those living alone or caring for a sick spouse. It can, just be something else that they've got to try and do. And as we age, our metabolism drops, which can lead to a decreased appetite. So, you're not feeling hungry and you're less eaten at meal times or just missing meals because you just don't feel that way inclined. But that's not the only reason that that appetites reduce. Some medications can have side effects that affect the appetite and you don't feel so hungry from them. Or for cancer treatment, chemotherapy can make, change how you taste things and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of different ways that medication can actually affect the appetite, and that can affect whether or not you're then eating enough. And even illness or food intolerance and chewing difficulties, they can all add to reducing the desire to eat. And not eating enough makes it difficult to maintain a healthy weight. And reducing particularly energy and protein intakes causes weight loss that leads to a loss of muscle mass and strength, both of which we need to maintain as we age, to reduce the risk of falls and fractures, which could end up putting us in hospital. And it may also lead to nutritional deficiencies in things such as iron, zinc, vitamin A and iodine. And other consequences of malnutrition include reduced immunity and delayed wound healing, which in turn have detrimental effects on recovery and rehabilitation if an illness or injury does occur. And it can be a vicious cycle. It might be that the malnutrition has led to that muscle loss, which has led to an injury, or it might have reduced your immunity and lead to an illness. But then recovery needs higher nutrient requirements, and those then aren't being met, which leads to further complications and delay in recovery. So, it's just this vicious cycle that can build. And it can also have negative cognitive effects. So it might lead to changes in mood or attitude or self-esteem and even reduced socialization, all which feed into that negative cycle. Vulnerable people may experience longer hospital admissions, higher mortality rates, and are more likely to need long-term residential care, which, we're trying to help people maintain their independence. So the good news is that in many cases, malnutrition and those, associated poor health outcomes can be prevented, or the decline towards those things can be slowed by identifying and addressing the risk factors earlier. So if there is an older person that who is living alone, whether it's family, a friend or a neighbour, or the person might be you, please keep a lookout for these signs that I'm about to give you a heads up on. Unintentional weight loss, Maybe you've noticed clothes are loose or dentures aren't fitting properly. That can be a sign that energy requirements aren't quite, high enough to maintain good muscle and tissue integrity. Reduced appetite or trouble swallowing. People might comment that, or you might notice that they can't be bothered doing their grocery shopping or cooking for themselves. They have been ill or seem depressed, or they've started a new medication that's affecting food intake and appetite. If you have any concerns that someone may be malnourished, have a chat with them. Talking about food and what you can do to help them eat better can be useful. They might be struggling with their shopping, so maybe you could offer to pick them up some things when you're doing yours. It's possible they're finding it too difficult or tiring to cook, so maybe you've got some great suggestions for quicker and easier meals that might help them. Or share a meal if you can. Invite them over for dinner or take dinner around to their place and take time to eat with them on a regular basis for their well-being. And it's that social connection, so it's good for everybody. Also encourage them to contact their doctor or nurse to have a chat, to check whether or not things are okay, and that they can then be referred on to a registered nutritionist or a dietitian to assess their nutritional status and make personal recommendations to help that person become well nourished again. And the last thing I'll cover here are 4 simple steps to help get extra energy and protein in if appetite is low. The first one is smaller meals more often and focus on quality over quantity. Secondly, prioritise high protein foods. So things like meat and cheese are really good. And things that have a little bit more fat in them, they add a bit more energy as well as the protein. And so things like creamy yogurts and ice cream and milky puddings for dessert, and swapping to using a full fat milk for things like your cereals or in your tea or coffee. And when it comes to things like your tea and coffee or having water, they are important for hydration, but a good idea to put them in between your meals so that you've got room to fit in that food that you need to give you all that energy. And add a nod of butter or a cheesy sauce to your vegetables, because we know how important vegetables are. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. But by adding those sort of, a bit of butter, a little bit of fat to it, olive oil if you can't have the dairy option, it can just add that little bit of extra energy just to help keep those energy levels up, especially if you're only having those small meals. So feel free to contact me if you would like any more information on helping somebody improve their nutrition and to help, counter any effects of malnutrition if you suspect that, they may need some help in that area. And thanks for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again soon, okay? Thanks. Bye.